Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to Last Call, where we are blasting off over the rainbow to the dark side of the moon. Let's hope we don't have a rapid, unplanned disassembly, because tonight, in addition to our returning guest and regular maitre d', Stephen Deleted Scenes Otten, our guest bartender is Tom Connors of Midnight's Edge After Dark, and MEAD Radio. All links in the description. Please subscribe. Together, we are going to break down the phenomenon of the dark side of Oz. As usual with our watch parties, the link is pinned at the top of the chat, so you can watch along with us. So top off your glasses and strap in as we blast off for the most glorious place on the face of the earth, or the great gig in the sky. Oh, happy Friday, happy Friday. How's everybody doing tonight? The chat's full tonight. I'm so glad to see all of you here. You guys are awesome. And if my lips and my teeth are looking a little weird, it's because what am I sipping on? I'm sipping on a dark side of the moon. Activated charcoal is what makes it dark. And I'm sure it'll clean up my teeth, but for the stream, it's got me looking a little like a zombie. But maybe I'll be feeling like a zombie by the end of it. But let me tell you, you're in for a treat tonight. But I do recommend maybe being a little enhanced. That might really help it. Speaking of enhancements, you're not here just to see me. You're here to see the Friday Night Last Call team. So let me start with the most beautiful member, Dorothy. Netter of Netter's Network. How you doing, sweetie, and what you sipping on?
I'm doing wonderfully because, of course, I'm with my darling husband.
Oh, you are so sweet. You're also so full of crap, but okay.
And I am sipping on, well, you got the dark side of the moon, so I consider my drink to be the light side of the moon. I'm drinking what we are affectionately dubbing a pina netter or a netter colada.
It's a pina colada without the
cream.
The cream. So it is literally a light side of the moon. So there you go. Absolutely. And I'm hoping to get her a little bit enhanced tonight too. You know, that could be fun. So there you go. And did I make it okay?
Yeah, it's great.
Good. Glad to hear that. And of course, speaking of alcohol, I gotta mention my maitre d' and designated driver, in reverse order, Aged Boomer and Stephen Otten Deleted Scenes. How you both doing, and what are you guys sipping on?
Oh, I just got a water tonight, but I'm doing fine.
Because you are the designated driver, I understand.
Because I'm the designated driver, yes.
And Stephen, what you sipping on tonight? You just muted.
Muted.
His name was Drink, muted.
I had to
go.
boomer it just one time so everyone would know it was me. All right, I have some sweet tea because nothing heavier because this will be contact high enough.
It's funny you say that because the first time I saw Pink Floyd's The Wall, I was stone cold sober. And I was over at a buddy's house and we were like sitting in the dark watching it, and he was having a few drinks. I was, like I said, stone cold sober. By the end of it, I thought I was on a friggin' acid trip. I was like, wow. But let me tell you, I got the DVD, and I watch it all the time. I love it. And speaking of things I love, let's get our guest bartender in here tonight, Tom Connors of Midnight's Edge and all of its associated channels. Tom, how are you doing, my friend, and what are you sipping on?
I'm drinking a McDonald's chocolate milkshake because I don't drink really.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I don't think
I'm
I've ever had
here.
a guest on drinking a milkshake, but that is a great drink. Awesome.
And I don't exactly know what we're doing, if we're just talking about it, if we're actually watching it, or what's
We
going
are
on,
going to actually watch it, but yeah, we're going to talk about it first just because. And you know what? Like I said, was it yesterday that you had the member stream? Don't feel like you're on. I hope you're just here to relax, have fun,
We're just hanging out here.
chit chat. I don't want you to feel like, you gotta whatever. But
And you will be providing a link for him and anybody else here to watch along.
Yes, so I already have the link to Cosme up at the top so that you will be able to watch along off plat. See, I can't do it on YouTube, right? But the Cosme link is right up there on the pinned to the top of the chat. So if you right click on that, open it up, I'll be sharing the film there. We may not watch all the way through it either because Dark Side of the Moon's only like 40 some minutes.
Yeah, like 41 minutes.
Yeah, and it's there's and we'll get into it as we talk about this whole concept, but some people say you start playing it over again. Some people suggest playing other Floyd albums. I don't buy it. I will take literally if you know your Wizard of Oz, we're literally watching it until right about If I Only Had a Heart starts. You know, so that's really less than the halfway point of the film. So we may not even go that far. We may just drop at that point and chit chat.
I mean, if you're going to do this proper, you got to, watch Wizard of Oz in 3D.
Well, I don't even know how to present that on the computer.
And, of course, I have the Dolby Digital 5.1 or DTS 5.1 mix or whatever. I didn't get the new 50th anniversary, which I'm told has a Dolby Atmos mix on it. So it's like,
Wow.
I really don't want to spend $50 on an album I already have 8 times
And
over.
see, this is the thing about these different versions of the home, as they come out with the HD and the 3D and the all. I don't have the bandwidth to even watch that kind of stuff. I was talking to Greg about this from Fanzine, and he's like, well, you get them so that you have them for when you do upgrade. And I'm like, with my luck, they'll be onto the next thing, and I'll completely miss the ability to.
Well, there is no next thing, pretty much. This is the last physical media where, that's kind of where I started, because I got on the 3D train.
Yeah.
And that did go the way of the dodo, pretty much.
And
but in between there, I kind of was buying the 4K copies that had the Blu-rays with them, just as future proofing, and I'm glad I did.
And I'm still, and this is my push, as you guys are buying the best of the best, home media, I'm literally making my own home media for stuff that doesn't exist. Like I've sent you some stuff. Like I sent you the holiday special, the Star Wars holiday special, and
Right.
things like that otherwise don't exist. And this is another example. So I made this custom cover for the multi-disc of Wizard of Oz, but I've also got my copy that I made of let me turn that right, of Dark Side of Oz. I also have the Tom and Jerry and the Wizard of Oz, which I just watched for the first time yesterday, and that was surprisingly good. The voice actors are incredible. It's very clear that they are doing their best to sound like, the original actors. But the standout is the voice actress for Elmira Gulch, the Wicked Witch of the West, Lorraine Newman from Saturday Night Live. I was like blown away. She sounds exactly like Margaret Hamilton. I was amazed. It was brilliant.
I don't have the Tom and Jerry version, but I got the Muppet one.
I didn't know there was a Muppet one. I'm going to have to get
Yeah,
that.
it was one of the last Disney Muppet movies before the flip-flop again, and it was a made-for-TV kind of thing. I can't remember if it was Brandy or something like that played Dorothy in it. The only bit that's worth a crap is Quentin Tarantino's in it, and it's hilarious.
And that was always the thing with the Muppets, right? The guest appearances and whatnot,
Right.
the cameos or whatever. But real quick, let me say, I don't want to ignore the chat. I've been, typing to the chat, but I want to say hi to everybody. I'm thinking the first person that I'm seeing in the chat is Logical Spock. How you doing, my friend? It's very logical to see you here. Deleted Scenes, that guy, he's in there chatting, tapping away. But seriously, I super appreciate you, Steven.
Did you read Logical Spock's original comment? He said this should have been watched yesterday. It's a joke.
Yeah,
Kind of.
and I did make the joke about, what was it, the sudden emergency deconstruction or whatever. It's just, yeah. Actually, you know what? Today, I do need to pause and let's real quick raise a glass to the artist. This is his anniversary. Sometimes it snows in April. Prince, he's been gone how many years now? It's, man. Yep. Here's to him. Yeah, last year we did a watch party on this date of Under the Cherry Moon. Not a great movie, but a great soundtrack. Let's see. Logical Spot. David Pensack, good to see you, buddy. Connie Cleary, always encouraging to see you in the chat. Lady Mist, dropping the flowers. You're wonderful. Big Al, be nice hanging out with you tomorrow watching Harvey. I know I saw, there she is, Evelyn Hampton. Kapla, Admiral. And, Sir Torrin Clegane, good evening. Good to see you, my friend. Agent Boomer, that derelict.
Hey! By the way, since you mentioned, I have a question about Cosby real quick.
Yeah.
If I adjust anything in Cosby, like the volume, does that adjust it on your end as well?
Nope, it's
Okay.
entirely on your end.
All right, gotcha. Okay.
Which is very confusing for me because I've got two computers that I'm doing Cosby on, and it's like, which one affects it for everyone else?
Gotcha. Okay.
Samael, still at work, drinking on the job. Doesn't usually go over well, so it's water for me. That's fair. You're a good company man, Samael.
What's the point of being at work if you can't drink? Wait, what?
I'll tell you what. I used to work for a law firm, and Friday night, 5:00, we'd have the firm mixer, and you were kind of expected to go and at least have a social drink, and some of those attorneys would drink, and I can't tell you the things that I saw. It was
Bloody Marys?
yeah, some people did Bloody Marys, but yeah, it was usually the hard stuff. It usually wasn't the mixes. Same thing happens to me at a Tool King Crimson show at Red Rocks a couple of decades ago. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And everyone's saying hi to each other, which of course always encourages me. Tim Hayes, good to see you. Again, we're only going to be watching a film for about 40 minutes probably tonight, Tim. So I hope you enjoy yourself while you are here. And Big Al reminding us what the movie is tomorrow. Harvey. And I think we're all caught up. Connie, thank you for dropping the links. You are wonderful. Yeah, I don't want it all on Steven's shoulders since he's on the panel. So, let's jump into the topic. Again, I want to, I got the black tongue from the activated charcoal. But,
Wow.
and luster dust, which unfortunately only I know about because it doesn't show up on camera. But, Dark Side of the Moon.
Cool.
But, is that the Blu-ray? Yeah, that's the Blu-ray. Nice. And you are muted, so just so you know.
That's two.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Boomer?
Oh, back in the day, I got the fancy box gift set of just the regular DVD of Wizard of Oz, and it came with like a big book, which I think had the screenplay in it. I could be wrong, and it had other things like art prints and things like that. I didn't typically go for the what was a gift, so I didn't ask for it, but I don't typically go for the big fancy editions, but that one I did get.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw this out to the entire panel and to the chat too. I mean, let me know where you're at on this. But this idea of the syncing up of Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz. Ever heard of it before? Is this new to you? You know, do you kind of have the idea behind it?
I know about it from you.
Well, yes, okay. That's fair. So, Netter.
I've never seen it, though, or heard it.
We never watched it together?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Well, we will tonight.
If you ever took a film class in college, there'd always be someone talking about this.
Really?
Sync up. Yes, it was a thing with like film students. They would they like sometimes they would even have watch parties and stuff. Yeah.
Would they take it seriously? Like they really
Well,
believed that, you know?
keep in mind these are guys that in their like late teens, early 20s. So yeah, they were taking it seriously. They were amazed by it. But yeah.
Yeah,
Tom,
I mean, I was
say
probably in high school the first time I heard about it, but I did research it, and they can't find an actual origin for it. The first time it was ever written about was in 1995 in Rolling Stone magazine.
Huh.
Of course, there's been websites, other write-ups on it, other theories, and of course, every member of Pink Floyd's been asked, and they've all said the same damn thing.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. In fact, Nick said everybody knows it's actually based on Sound of Music.
That's awesome.
Because really, I mean, if you get technical about it, they would have really had no real means of doing this technically at the time it came out, even if they wanted to. But the reason I think this had a rise is you go from, okay, Dark Side of the Moon is one of the biggest selling albums of all time.
What year did that come out?
70, was it 76 or 77?
Okay, so 70.
Or no, it was earlier than that. This was the earlier one. That was Wish You Were Here. This was 73.
Oh, damn. 73, there was no home media.
Exactly. Like, home video was still a couple of years off.
Right.
And as I was going to say, I could see this becoming a thing because, as you know, as it was the biggest selling album of all time. So chances are most people would have had it in their homes or their dorm rooms at the time. When home media did become a factor, Wizard of Oz was one of the most widely available films on both Laserdisc, VHS, CED, which was another form of kind of like Laserdisc, but it's basically a movie on a record, Beta, you name it. Just about any home format that's come out. Wizard of Oz, in fact, I remember as a young kid going to my aunt's for the first time, seeing a VCR, and it was a Beta, and the movie she had was Wizard of Oz. So, I think between the rise of home media, people getting stoned and having nothing better to do, and the album being the one that just most people had, and it being this urban myth that just kept permeating, because really it sounds like something that some stoner chick made up.
And
let's be real. Like, it really is tangential, because like somebody's gone through it, and there really is less coincidences than there is coincidences with the music at the end of the day.
Yes, you're absolutely
And our
right.
brain wants that verification more so than anything. And this goes along with like silent film. You can take just about any film, take the sound out of it, and put almost any soundtrack to it, and automatically your brain is going to try and sync things up to it. It's just the way we work naturally.
Yeah, it's like finding Jesus in the patterns on toast. You know, it's your brain.
Kind of, but at the same time, it's just, everything has a rhythm, right? Like music is rhythmic, right? And most movies are written and then they have music put to them or what have you. And sometimes they're even edited to music.
Yeah.
So it's so easy to just slap something up against it. Like you could take like the Death Star run from Star Wars and probably put it up against Queen Night at the Opera and it would probably work. You know what I mean? Just
now I'm gonna have to friggin' try that.
Emotionally, you'll try and find things visually that are like connecting. And again, like people said, coincidentally, there's like maybe 8 connections throughout the entire run of the 41 minutes, to where the rest of the time nothing is really syncing up in quotations, and you're really stretching for the connect the dot thing. It really feels like one of those. Like, oh, there's an I in Pink Floyd. I watch Wizard of Oz. Oh, clearly, like, it's like, those stupid kind of, like, theory things, yarns that people come up with that are like, you really have discovered nothing, to be honest.
I agree.
But I like doing it for fun. I've done it maybe, God, I don't know how many dozen times.
Oh, okay, so this isn't your first rodeo.
No, this is not my first rodeo. I mean, at least a dozen times I've probably done it in my lifetime, and every time I've made sure I've been sufficiently inebriated or stoned, or however you want to look at it. But like,
it helps.
And that's the other factors. If you got a bunch of stoners sitting around, they're looking for shit like that.
I loved your well, you've actually used the joke a couple times. It's like because you've made this joke in reference to the whole Cleopatra thing. It's like a bunch of stoners sitting around going, "Hey, did you know that Jesus was black?" It's like, and I can totally hear a bunch of stoners saying,
"I got no evidence, but you think about it."
They did a joke on The Simpsons. They had an episode where they actually had, I think they actually had Paul McCartney and Linda voice themselves, and in a joke about the whole Paul is dead.
Oh yeah,
thing.
that's the famous Lisa becomes a vegetarian episode. Yeah.
Right. And he says something about if you play the White Album backwards or something like that, there's this really great recipe for
Vegetarian something or other. Yeah.
Something, yeah. I'm like that is really, really funny. So I wanted to real quick say hi to Pacific 414 because he stopped in. And then Tim Hayes wanted to ask you, Tom, are you going to be going to karaoke and do Pink Floyd tunes later tonight?
I might be able to do one.
God, I don't know if I... What?
Also say hello to CC Karaoke.
Oh. Well, okay, let me real quick because I'm way behind on chats. And I watched the original silent version of The Wizard of Oz. Oh gosh, that's nightmare fuel, Evelyn, but cool. It was a known thing during my less sober days. I was never a Floyd fan. What's wrong with you, Samael? Though, so I didn't go. Yeah, see, I was a huge Floyd fan, so I was at least willing to entertain it. It was just an excuse to listen to Dark Side of the Moon again.
Well, not only that, if you think about it, you always would have had to have flipped the album back in the day, right? So you can't really sync it up. And so that's another reason why I think a lot of this came along with at least the 80s, because then CD was available, videotape or Laserdisc was available. People could actually sit down and, do it. And the other reason why I think it's about that era is because that was when they had the old MGM logo on the front of it or whatever. Right. Where people say now it's off sync because of the newer logo they got on it. But yeah.
Yes, and that's and unfortunately that's the version that I have, so yeah, it might be a little bit off. But I will explain to people as we go through Pop Culture Curator. Welcome.
But there's some people who can't even agree on which roar you're supposed to start on. So like again, I reiterate, unless you had the reel-to-reel back in the day, like
good point,
and you had the ability to watch the film in 16 millimeter or something like that, it's like no chance of this happening before the 80s.
Yep. I'm one of those people who listens to all the albums but keeps forgetting to come back around to Dark Side. Well, here's the thing. Especially Dark Side and The Wall have a lot of very popular releases, so you get used to hearing them on the radio a lot, and maybe you don't go back to the album and listen to the songs that weren't releases, so yeah, it's worth it. And sometimes I'll just have, I'll just say to my Echo Dot, hey, play me some Pink Floyd, and then it's whatever's on, and I'm happy, because
you get used to. Because I'm not a fan of what the oldies stations always play, like the same 2 or 3 songs.
The same thing over and over again.
It's usually The Wall, and that's about it. They don't play much else, and I'm one of those that if I'm going to listen to Dark Side or The Wall or Wish You Were Here,
you got to listen to all the way through,
the whole
right?
album. Yeah,
that's kind of how it's intended to be.
Kind of the trilogy to me. Yeah, like I know some people like Animals. I'm not a big fan of Animals, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say I was listening to the radio the other day because I didn't have my iPod with me, and of course they always play one of 2 Black Sabbath songs, and of course it was Iron Man because they can never stop playing Iron Man.
It's always Paranoid or Iron Man, exactly.
Yep.
You're never going to hear War Pigs,
right?
Yeah.
But so I think what we're going to do is, because I don't think we need to really attend to it too much. I'll try to point out some of the sync ups and whatnot. I'll do my best, but as I get further into this, I'm gonna probably lose track.
You can get started. I was gonna say the only other reason I could think where people would even dream to, like, bring up some comparisons. I guess you could find like with the cover, right? The light going in, and then the other side comes the rainbow. And of course, there's somewhere over the rainbow. There's the heartbeat factor. There's the brain damage factor. I mean, there's things that kind of just happen to lend themselves to this story very easily, I guess.
You're absolutely right. Those wider stretches, right?
Yeah.
The wider illusions, like the lunatic is in the hall, and it's right where they're introducing the only had a brain guy,
Scarecrow.
the
Scarecrow. Yeah,
And when they get to and then you get the heartbeat again when you get to the
heartbeat
Tin Man Prince
on
and all that stuff,
and I even kind of made an allusion in my intro where the whole you're step out of the woods, step into the light,
Yep.
as opposed to Dark Side of the Moon. There's that definite light and dark relationship in both, and that's such a universal concept. I mean, that's not.
Well,
Don't
and
need
later on tonight, I'm going to try and watch Citizen Kane synced up with The Wall, so I think that's going to work.
I could totally kind of see that.
I know, right? Like, you can sit there and because you can just start drawing parallels, right? Like, he's walling himself in throughout the film. It's like, no, I can.
That's
see
a
that.
good point. Another one is I think some World War II film would probably link
Right.
up real well with. I'm even thinking like Dunkirk maybe or something.
I was thinking
movie.
more old school, like Sansa Iwo maybe.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like Britain and Germany.
Well, and there's some people who will say like, which is I think it's either Ummagumma or Obscured by Clouds actually syncs up with like the last quarter of 2001. Now that I can understand and see more, like, because I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't kind of come to that point where, because Pink Floyd actually did do some scores for films, and they did jam during the Apollo landing. I mean, so I'm kind of surprised that Kubrick never did think to go, why don't I just have Pink Floyd do the soundtrack for this in the first place?
And
But,
if any filmmaker was going to be in on something like that, you'd think it would be Kubrick, right?
Exactly. And I mean, and we've even had
Kubrick or
stuff like-
Tarantino.
yeah, and Metropolis has
David
even been
Lynch.
rescored by modern artists as well. So, like, again, that goes with my whole point of you can make just about anything sync up with anything if you really try hard enough.
I absolutely agree. Let's go ahead and give this a try and see what y'all think. I know you have a limited amount of time, and again,
Yeah,
Tom,
we're good on time. It's only 41 minutes of the album, so
exactly. And you know what? I just want to front load this. I thank you so much for being here. Like I said the other day, I appreciate you. I don't want you to feel like this is work. This is my whole concept for Friday night is just a bunch of friends getting together to have drinks. You don't have to take it too seriously. So.
I'll drink to that.
And Matter's over there going to drink to that, right? Exactly. So I'm going to, if you want to click the link, over here, up at the top, do a right click so that you can still hear us babbling over here. But you can join the Cosme link and, I'll share. Oh, I got the wrong mouse. This is what happens when you have two mice. Give me a second.
And if anyone in the chat can name the movie that syncs up with Adam Hartmother, you win a case of Wonka bars.
Okay, there you go. All right.
is
Oh,
that
now
a clue?
Now I'm thinking of what we sync up with Willy Wonka.
I was gonna say, is that a clue? Yeah.
Although, have you of course heard the other internet meme or whatever of Willy Wonka and what's that movie about the train?
Oh, the
Polar
newer
Express?
one.
No.
It's a newer one. It's
Ice
about the-
Piercer, I think, or something like that.
something like that.
Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer. Yeah, that's what it was. I got to be honest with you. You watch the video and you got to really stretch on a couple things, but you're like, yeah, I can kind of see it.
I could see Willy Wonka also syncing up with something like Animals, like in a weird way.
Yeah. Someone pointed out that each one of the kids, and this could very well be Roald Dahl's inspiration, that each one of the kids represents one of the 7 deadly sins or something like that.
Yeah, there's one. Yeah, they're all in there. Yeah,
And it's like, okay, yeah, that's pretty iconic. It kind of
even
makes
Charlie's
sense.
Envy.
Yes. But in a way, he kind of has. Let's face it, he's the good kid, right? He's the one you're pulling for, and what is
The lesser of 7 evils. Yeah.
well, yeah, there's that possibility, but there's also the aspect of not to get too much on a Christian tangent, but we have all sinned and fallen short. The whole idea behind Christianity is redemption, right? You know, getting yourself out of the sin. And it's like even Charlie commits the sin of, you know, not following the rules, fizzy lifting, drink, blah, 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 blah. But it's how he responds to it in humility.
Well, you can even go as far as to say, you know, Grandpa talking him into the fizzy lifting drinks is almost an analogy for Eve and the...
Satan, yeah, exactly. Yep.
No,
Grandpa Joe is Satan.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of parallels you could draw there, obviously.
And when you think about Roald Dahl, that's probably exactly what he was thinking too.
Oh, man.
That was his kind of a shtick. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get this started. I don't know if you're able to watch along with us, Tom, but you know
I have it up here. Like I said, I was gonna get ready to just do it myself. I didn't know what the exact plan was, but I guess we'll just do it this way for now.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I probably should.
No, that's
let
fine.
you know
It's easier than me doing the whole.
That's what I figured too.
Shenanigans.
Okay, so for those that do, especially those that are watching this on in the future, maybe you have your own copy of Dark Side of the Moon and the Wizard of Oz. I'm going to do the 3, 2, 1 play so that, you know, to the best of your ability, you can sync up with us. But I'm just going to go 3, 2, 1 play, and hope the sound comes through. Yep. Oh, and it is the black and white MGM, so maybe this is the right version.
That is an old lion.
It is an old... That lion, I'm sorry to tell you, isn't with us anymore.
Did you start it on the first or the second roar or the third roar?
I actually don't know. This was a download that I made a DVD.
I could hear
out.
ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump.
Yep.
Oh, and you actually play the other music with it. See, when I always
it
we
takes
just turn
a while.
the movie down, yeah.
It takes a while to even out. Actually, I'm just realizing. Yeah, let me hold on a second. We're gonna start over again, guys.
We're gonna start.
Oh
I
yeah,
hear it
the
now.
sound is there. Okay.
Now we got to start from the
The sound
beginning
was
again.
there.
I'm sorry, guys. We are gonna start from the beginning. My apologies. So
Troy's being a doofus.
yeah, I what happens with this version is the sound from Wizard of Oz comes in louder, and it drowns out Dark Side of the Moon, and then Dark Side of the Moon starts to overtake.
Okay.
So sorry about
fine.
that. I wasn't positive.
Take 2.
Take 2. 1, 2, 3, play. Okay, there we go. And we're going to start with another roar.
I'm curious. Was this typically shown around Thanksgiving? On TV?
I
Something
do
like
remember
that.
this usually on TV during the holidays. I'm sorry,
Yeah, there
Tom.
was something like that until Turner bought it. Every year it was on. I can't remember if it was ABC or NBC, but something like that, yeah. Or CBS, one of the three.
You wanna
Obviously,
know-
one of the big three networks.
You want to know a real weird Troy story? Is that growing up, every time the Wizard of Oz would come on, I learned where the commercial breaks were. And there was a commercial break right after the Cowardly Lion goes running and dives through the window.
Yes.
That was always my go pee break. And I'm talking like little 8-year-old Troy.
Sometimes they would do well with the commercial breaks with movies.
Yeah.
It's a lost art, and sometimes they would do it right in the middle of a car chase, which.
Well, it depends on what you're watching. Like back on the network days,
Mm-hmm.
I got real good at figuring out the pattern.
Mm.
Like the pattern was always they didn't have a commercial till the first 20 minutes. So basically, the first act break usually is when they do it on, and then it was like every 10 minutes after that. So you got to the last 20 minutes of the movie, then it was every 5 minutes usually.
And Sir Torrent Clegane brings up, Grandpa Joe is the devil, makes sense. Ask Chico of Chico and the Man. Yes, exactly. There
See,
you
I've
go.
never actually watched this with the movie playing in the background with the
Yeah.
noise. We usually just turned off the...
It's going to drown it out mostly.
No,
and
it's fine. It's just, yeah.
because you can't really hear the dialogue, I have added
Words.
yeah, the subtitles, but the subtitles are a little off sync too. Let me grab my notes here. It tells me that the first indicator that the setup is correct, the transition from Speak to Me to Breathe syncs up with the fade in of producer Mervyn LeRoy.
Yeah, if you download it, it's probably done right.
Probably.
I don't think it really all that matters. All that
Yeah, I'm sure. Broad strokes, I think, are fine enough for us, right? So right here, I'm not sure if this is the spot, but wait, listen to the music. When they get to the line, leave but don't leave me, Annie M appears to say leave, and Dorothy turns around and walks away. Yeah, I feel like it is a little bit.
It didn't
off-sync.
sync up there, yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to have to expect it to not be perfect.
Oh!
I know, right?
It gets me every time.
And he is such a great physical actor. And I forget the actors' names, but the one that plays the Cowardly Lion was always my favorite. Now, have you guys all read the original Wizard of Oz?
I had
No.
a long time ago.
It's a very simplified story, although there are some interesting additional details. But this is an example where I think the movie is superior.
Well, isn't the movie actually like the second or third book or whatever anyway? Or most of it's taken from other books? Not
No,
the
this is
original
taken
book?
from the original Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay.
It's that sequel movie that they did with the scary girl that was like a
Veruca
composite.
Salt.
Veruca Salt. I kind of liked her, but yeah, it was a weird.
I saw
movie.
a made-for-TV movie about the writing of The Wizard of Oz, the book, and it had John Ritter as L. Frank Baum in it.
I saw that too. Yeah. Another great physical actor.
Yeah.
So look around. Dorothy looks around. Smiles you'll give and tears you'll cry. The two farmhands holding the cart and smiling, and the other farmhand below is crying. This one is not exactly on time with the smiles. Well, it's definitely not on my version. All you touch, Dorothy touches the farmhand holding the bucket. When at last the work is done, drums strike. The drums sync with the farmhand's hitting his finger with the hammer. Let's see. Don't sit down, Dorothy not only doesn't sit down, she steps upon the bench next to the pig pen. Balance on the biggest wave, Dorothy balances herself on the rail of the pig pen.
Yeah, we're past that.
I know, that's why I'm getting us caught up. As it goes from breathe to on the run, Dorothy falls off the fence. Annie M shows up and begins talking as the woman's voice on DSOTM chatters away. Oh, Dark Side of the Moon. Dorothy's gaze travels across from right to left as the sound effects in On the Run moves in the same direction audibly.
Oh, that's not going to do much for us here. It's not in stereo.
I was just going to say, you got to listen to it in stereo too, damn it.
Stereo?
Yeah.
Toto wags his tail in time with the clicking sound effects. Oh, yeah, I suppose to a certain degree.
Yeah.
Toto's ears perk up at the sound of the explosion at the end of On the Run.
Did you have this album on 8-track, Troy?
I never owned an 8-track. My parents had a couple, but I never even listened to them.
Oh, I had 8 tracks.
And since what I've learned about 8-tracks, I'm kind of glad they would have frustrated
Probably the
hell
worst
out of me.
format.
Yeah.
They weren't that difficult to maneuver.
You could only listen to them
they
in
sounded
blocks.
like ass.
No, you couldn't. I mean,
Yeah, and they did. Well, it depended on the player you had, but you're right. Most players
Well,
suck.
it's just because the amount of tape they used, they split it up over 4 tracks,
Yep.
and the tape heads and all that stuff, the way they would work, they would always go out of alignment and shit. And to me, it was just always much more muffled sounding than cassette was.
Yeah, it's like the player that my mom had. I would just hit the forward button and it would skip, and it would skip fast. It's not like you had to listen to 4, like to the whole block or whatever. You just hit skip and it would go to the end.
This one's actually really interesting. The rumbling at the end of On the Run lends itself nicely to the sound of distant thunder and enhances the feeling of seeing shafts of sunlight piercing the clouds. And you know what? I'm just going to say Wizard of Oz. Oh, yeah, now that one syncs up great.
Yes.
I don't even need to read that one.
See, that's the one that I think gets most people convinced of it, I guess.
But I'm totally open to that's just a total coincidence, right?
Well,
I
it'd
don't
be
know.
different if it was bike. It's not actually bike bell noises.
Right.
It's just mostly clock noises, but yeah. But also just the idea of the ominence.
Wanted to say hi to Alicia. Thanks so much for being here. Good to see you. Links above if you want to watch along with us. Daryl the Derelict. Good to see you, my friend. And I just want to say this. Margaret Hamilton, everything I saw about her, she was a wonderful, wonderful person.
Even when she got burned.
Yeah, she got burned very badly in the filming of this movie. But she was so gracious and such a kind person. The thing was, it really hurt her heart that children were afraid of her because of this movie.
Well, she plays 2 villains.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, she actually went on Sesame Street to try and...
No. She was on both Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers. It was Mr. Rogers where she tried to share herself and show that she was...
Yeah, because
in
they
costume.
actually would never show that episode of Sesame Street ever again, and it just finally
But it's
became
available on
uncovered.
YouTube now.
Yeah, it just finally got uncovered here a couple of years back.
Because
when
they
dug into
entered into the
tapes.
Smithsonian.
Yep. Well, I think it was during the HBO Sesame Street deal because they had dug out all the tapes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I believe there's only 2 or 3 episodes that were never going to be shown again, and that was one of them.
Let's see, I'm kind of falling behind here. Uncle
The other one, I
Henry's-
believe, is the Mr. Hooper death episode, if I remember right.
Yeah. I just love this album. You know? I kind of forget about the Wizard of Oz listening to the album.
I do like the line Andy M says, "Being a Christian woman, I can't say it." You know,
I know, right?
which means it was really bad what she wanted to say to her.
And
It's a family film.
It is, and it's also very much of the, not only of the time, but of the time they're portraying, right? Being a Christian woman, I just can't say it. And it's like, you know, I think nowadays someone would stand up to her, but back then it was like, no, I need to obey the law, right?
Yes,
Because of Christianity. Christianity says to obey the law to the extent that it, you know, doesn't interfere with the Bible, you know?
this does sync up pretty well, actually.
It's kind of neat, right?
Yes.
Well, and I'm going to do some experimenting tonight. I'm going to watch Appetite for Destruction with 12 Angry Men and see how that works out.
Do you have like a list of these just to
I
drop
can
them
come up,
throughout?
I can make up some lists and see how they work out. I mean, I'm really starting to wonder, even though I was joking about the wall and Citizen Kane, I'm like thinking, you know what? That might actually work out.
I wasn't joking when I said I think I might want to try that.
And especially since that's a double album, it will go through most of the movie. So yeah.
See, and then I see some of these, like, at the first base chord of Time, the scene changes inside Ani M's house. Yeah. So, you know? It's like, do Dorothy and the rest of the cast appear to move and react to the rhythm and the mood of the music. Okay, sure. Yeah. Elmira Gulch points her finger at a bass chord. I mean, I feel like those are kind of stretches, right?
Well, like I said, I think it's just more so your confirmation bias. You're feeding into.
Yes,
like
I agree.
I said, you could probably take the same 2 or 3 scenes from movies, put them up against 3 different songs or bits of music, and your brain would automatically try to connect in some way the emotional connection between the two.
Yeah.
And I mean, the whole running thing here, too, with her running away, that bit all syncs up and stuff, too, and yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. I don't think that's even mentioned. Oh, no, yeah, it does. No one told you when to run.
I'm going to say the larger swaths are the ones that I remember more so, but, like, yeah. Like I said, it's been a good 10, 15 years probably since I've done that. Well, maybe not. It's been... Now that I think about it, I think I did it to celebrate 420 a couple years back. But
yeah.
When I got
You Are
the
Young
box
and Life
set,
is Long, a reference to Dorothy's youth. Sure.
Yeah, because I do remember watching it with like the multi-channel mix and the movie playing at the same time in 3D. So it's pretty trippy.
And see, I'm actually jumping past a bunch of these in the list because it's like, this is pretty dumb stuff.
What?
The next one that I remember specifically is after he's done looking into the crystal ball and she starts to leave. The music changes and gets frantic with the tornado.
Oh, yeah.
Because it does that for the next part, yeah.
Gorilla Random Thoughts, thanks so much for being here. Again, the link is above if you want to watch
There's
along
the home
with
again
us.
part here because she's looking at her home, yeah.
And
there's little things that do kind of weirdly sync up, I'm not going to lie.
a Wizard of Oz thing, I love this scene of him doing his whole fakir kind of thing on her. Not to cheat her out of money or anything like that, but really to help her, to get her to go home, you know. I think that is so sweet, and she buys into it. She's like, oh, that must be Annie M. Just the way a kid would with, fortune teller, right?
The part about singing, going home and warming yourself by the fire syncs up with her talking about being sick and Annie.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, like I said, there are a lot of little things that I can't deny do sync up. So, but yeah. Yeah, and the wind and this whole bit, this all does sync up really well.
And I'm telling you, the more I drink, the more I feel like it syncs up.
It's kind of eerie with the words and everything playing. It does kind of sync up even more in some bits.
Yeah.
I can see where...
I always wondered about the professor and his horse because they're out in the open. There's no shelter for them anywhere.
Oh, I never even thought about that. Good
He's at
point.
the end of the movie, though, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He obviously survives just fine.
Yeah.
Well, this is something I pointed out to my mom because she calls me every time she hears about a tornado in my area. And it's like, unless the tornado actually rips through our house, we're probably fine.
I noticed how they let the horses go so they wouldn't be trapped in the barn.
Exactly.
Those are some pretty good effects for back in the day.
You know how they did that?
Oh.
Yep.
It's a nylon stocking filled with sand on a drill bit being spun around in a tank of water.
It works.
And then, of course, it's back projected.
Yeah, this all syncs up really weirdly, but like...
That's how they did stuff in the days before CG, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, okay, your dog is lighter than you. Are you? Oh, she is holding the dog now because earlier she wasn't. There goes your door.
And I don't even know who does the vocals at this point in the song, but she is good.
I can't remember the name of the lady either. She's listed in the notes.
And they don't
I
hear
believe
her.
she came after him later on for more money. Because she was pissed she got paid as a studio worker or whatever, and then after the album sold, You know,
It's
really,
like
really
you can
well.
see the tornado like just there.
That has got to be scary. I'll be honest with you. You know, knock wood, I've never actually seen a tornado in real life. You know.
Now here's the thing: she just got hit with the window, and the glass never broke.
Well, that's possible. You know.
I've seen funnel clouds before, but I've never seen a full-blown tornado.
I mean, I'm not crazy
I've seen
like
one kind of forming, but
you know, I'm not one of those storm chasers like
Right.
Katie Nicolau. Yeah. She's a
Yeah,
sweetheart, but she's nuts.
Ned, if you're looking for continuity errors, look for how many times Judy Garland's hair changes length.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
good
yeah.
point.
NEM.
Now, this is a great use of. I think it was very clear to people in the audience at the time that this is like a dream sequence, and the whole movie is, because they do the whole you know, over her getting knocked on the head.
Well. Oh, you mean this part here, or just
Oh, yeah.
everything else?
well, and nothing from that moment on is very realistic. I mean, come on.
Right, nobody's gonna believe that Elmira Gulch is just pedaling away in a tornado.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul too. Ha!
Yeah, right.
Sorry, the Freddy's Dead sea noise.
We got cows.
I love how the bed is just floating around.
And that flimsy wood farmhouse doesn't fall apart when it's smacked to the ground.
Right, that's a
Yeah.
well-made house, right?
Well, Oz has this issue with houses constantly falling in.
Well, that's true. And that whole scene
Oh,
of
well, it did land on something soft.
Well, that's
but I'm
true.
pumped.
and that whole scene was actually done backwards. They filmed the house from above, dropping a model house onto a stage, and then they, you know, filmed it backwards.
This is my favorite sync-up.
Isn't that brilliant?
It's the money shot, baby.
That's the money shot. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
And of course, for those who don't know, they didn't actually have special effects to go from black and white to color back then. So what they actually had is another actress who was dressed in all black and white clothing
No
and with a dark
kidding.
wig, and the set was painted in white, black, and gray colors. So then she would step out of frame, and Dorothy would actually step into frame in color.
I had no idea. That's brilliant.
That's exactly how they did it, because they didn't have the special effects to do that kind of an optical back then.
I didn't know I was bringing
Yeah.
you on as a subject matter expert for Wizard of Oz too.
Oh shit, I know too much about this movie.
Right?
Too much. I even know that that's not somebody hanging in the background. That was like an.
Oh yeah, it was like a
as
crane or something like
crane,
that, right?
yeah.
No
like-
way.
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I heard there was a hanging munchkin. No?
No, that's an urban legend. Yeah.
It's almost like she walks outside. It's like, this place has color?
Yeah. Yeah, because they invented color as they were filming this movie. So
Well, and this is
They-
often cited as the first color film. That's not true either. But
no, it's absolutely not.
Does Thief of Baghdad predate this?
I think that might be one of them that does. They had 2-strip color, and they had a couple other versions of color before. This is 3-strip Technicolor here. So this is actually about the time you get to, like, they use the same kind of color technology.
Goody
from here
bullshit.
Through, like,
Just as
the next 20, 30 years, I think. But yeah, sorry.
Right.
go
just
ahead.
as the good witch is coming in.
Now this is kind of the point where they actually kind of perfected it to a point.
Yeah, because
For
I
that
think it
era.
still holds up very well.
Oh God, yes. They scanned this recently. Like if you actually have the 4K, which I mean, of course I do have both the 3D and the 4K. When they scanned it in like, I think it was 16K, which is just insane. But like that way they could future-proof it because they knew they'd probably never get another shot at scanning the bastard again
Ah.
because it's in such rough shape. And I think they, you know, So they did it at the highest resolution that they could. So basically like 4 times what 4K is. So like, yeah.
It's reality. We actually are kind of talking about the way Floyd and Oz kind of sync up. And you're right, Alicia. In 1850s, they did start playing around with color, but they were only doing like one color, like one hue, you know? They didn't start doing combinations of color until later.
Well, when they first started, of course they had the tinted films. Then they had 2 strip, like I said, and they had other processes that were similar to Technicolor. But what Technicolor was actually 3 strips of film.
Right.
And yeah, so you had to put them together to actually make a print.
Tom, Andy Masterson, by the way, hello, talented
Russian
Andy
VHS of Wizard of Oz, yes.
It's on Netflix.
That busts me up every time you do that old Russian thing.
Only in
I
the
love it.
Russian version is all black and white. We're not allowed to have any colors.
It's too exciting.
Yes, it gets us too exciting. We get all upset and try to overthrow the government.
Now I'm thinking of the Russian version. The balloon crashes before liftoff or something, right after liftoff.
Wow, this is some of the
Okay,
best parts of the
here's
album.
my bit of useless trivia.
Okay.
The actress who plays Glinda the Good Witch played Clayton's mother on Benson, Billy Burke.
No kidding.
Huh. Did not know that.
What I want to know is, where does the red brick road go?
It goes right to the castle.
It goes to the land of the Winkies.
Of course,
You know what?
know
It's
that.
funny. It doesn't matter where it goes because this stupid bitch just could have told her from the start. All you gotta do is tap your feet and you can go home.
Right?
I know, right? And, she gives a reason why she says that. That's bullshit. It's because she wanted her to assassinate the
Exactly.
Wicked Witch
She
of
wants
the
to
West.
use her as an assassin.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
No, and I think I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Cecil.
Oh, yeah.
But I think his theory of this is just a movie about 2 bitches fighting over shoes. That theory is correct.
That's a good point. That's an excellent point. Right.
Now he goes through this whole spiel in his review, and at the end he goes, really, at the end of the day, all Wizard of Oz is about is 2 bitches fighting over shoes.
And then you wonder why it's such a gay anthem film, right?
Right, exactly. It is such a gay anthem film.
I can't help but think that if this film was made today, you'd have a bunch of people bitching about the fact that, little people, were being exploited or something like that. And all the actors of diminutive size would be like, shut the hell up. We want to work.
Yes.
There's that. What I love is the movie, what is it? Under the Rainbow? It's the one with Chevy Chase and Carrie Fisher where it's about the making of this movie.
Uh-huh.
And about they're the handlers of all the little people and all the trouble they went with.
Oh, yeah.
You ever see that
A
movie?
lot of getting drunk during this movie.
Yeah, a lot of getting drunk and fucking and pardon my French.
I don't know how much of that had to do with their community and how much of it had to do with...
Well, it was just had to do with the fact that you had that many little people all together at once. Because they said it was like they never had that many little people together at once in one place before. That's a movie that's kind of gotten lost, though. Most people don't even know about it.
Right.
Is it called Under the Rainbow? Help me out, Steven. Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Under
Yeah,
the
that's what I
Rainbow,
thought.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what
I remember it kind of vaguely.
Yeah. Well, they used to actually play it a lot on Cinemax, believe it or not, when I was younger.
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
So the one I missed, Share It Fairly, they're giving her flowers. She's already got the flowers, so there you go. And like I said, I'm skipping over a bunch of the bullshit ones that I don't think are really that great.
I remember watching this as a child thinking, okay, she's in a good place now.
Yeah, she's in a good place until they send her off on a mission to
Right.
kill the Wicked Witch.
But I'm like, these people seem friendly enough, It's...
Let me tell you, this story translates real well into Dungeons and Dragons.
Where does the
Honestly,
Red
I
Brick
can
Road?
see that.
Where does
It
the
lands-
Red Brick Road?
The Red Brick Road leads to the land of the Winkies. I kid you not. That comes from the book. The fact that detail is in this movie when it has nothing to do with the story of the movie is actually the big surprise.
Yeah, this is not syncing up so much.
No, not really.
Yeah, it's a little spotty.
They're too happy for the somber music going on in the background.
Yeah, that's one where you got to point out, yeah, it doesn't work really well at all. Us and Them. At the beginning of Us and Them, various voices may be heard, and at times it appears that the Munchkins officials are the ones who are doing the talking. Okay, fine, sure.
That doesn't work unless you turn off the audio from the movie, though.
True.
That's what I'm saying. They don't even. Nobody's ever really specified that part of it. I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, you got to watch it with the audio on or off."
Yeah, true. Good point.
Hi, Lady Rose.
These were
Lollipop,
my
this is
favorite
actually
of the
syncing
Munchkins.
up actually really weirdly in the music.
Yeah.
Or at least it was there for a minute. It was actually working.
Yeah, when you're hearing both the music of the film and of the album, it is kind of...
There's been a few spots that have sonically mixed well, I'm not going to lie, but other times it just... To me, somebody with a musical ear, it makes me want to just go, ah! Something's not right.
Yeah.
You know?
I never noticed before. They gave her a lollipop and flowers. What does she do with them? Because she doesn't have them on the road.
Yeah, good point.
They should
I
have showed
think
one
you're
of the flying
muted,
monkeys.
Netter. You're coming through real quiet.
There was a recycling bin as she was leaving town. It's just off screen.
I didn't hear a word she said, sorry.
What does she do with the lollipop and the flowers she got?
Oh, ate him.
Which is which? Now we got two witches on the screen.
Oh, kill my sister. Was it you?
Up and down as she holds her broom up.
Because if you think about it, rightfully, they are her slippers.
Yeah, because then wouldn't they be like her inheritance?
Yeah.
Exactly. They're
That's what
her
I'm saying.
sisters.
So Glenda's like interfering with shit here and using Dorothy
Yup.
to do it.
It's like the U.S. fighting a proxy war here.
That's why I kind of dig Wicked as one of the only ones of those stories that kind of does make sense when they
It
try
does.
to take the villain and twist it around because it's like
Yeah,
Glenda's-
Netter and I went to see that live.
Glenda's
That
kind of
was a good
sticking her
show.
nose where it don't freaking belong here.
I almost felt like Glenda was the white sheep of the family.
Yeah, kinda.
And if she's the good witch of the north, is there a good witch of the south?
Yes, there is. In the books, there is.
Well, and that's what I loved about the Wicked story. The idea is that basically Glenda isn't as good as you think she is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're kind of saying that ourselves here, aren't we?
Wasn't it there
She
when she got
sends
burned?
a... Oh, sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
right in that scene is where she got burned real bad.
Yeah, she sends a child to kill somebody.
Yep.
I mean, like...
Like I said, it's like the U.S. fighting a proxy war.
Well, and the fact that, you know, what's-her-face is that much older than she really should be playing the part, I mean, we
Yeah.
forget
Yeah.
how young Dorothy's really supposed to be. Because, like, in
Yeah.
the book, isn't she, like, 8 or 9 or some shit like
Something
that?
like that.
Sorry, but yeah.
And so, well, I understand they needed someone that had the singing chops.
Well, they originally wanted Dorothy, they wanted Shirley Temple originally,
Shirley Temple, right.
which would have made more sense, to be honest
Yes.
with you, but,
Wait,
I
liked her-
mean...
I like Sir Torrance' comment. So my question is, why is there a lollipop guild? Were the mines dangerous that they had to unionize?
Yes,
No way.
probably. I'll bet that's exactly. You know, if you know the Baum and his history, he probably thought of exactly that.
There will be a 3-season HBO Max series about the Lollipop Guild now.
Down and out as she leaves. I like this drink, but I'm never putting the dark coloring in it again. The taste is wonderful. I'm feeling really warm, but
You're starting to look like an emu chick.
yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
And you have a doctor's appointment in the morning. That's going to be interesting, unless you can brush all that off your lips and tongue.
Oh yeah, it'll come off just fine.
You should say. You can say I can't taste anything. It's something wrong with my.
It's like, and she's got to do that big circle. It's like, why don't you just walk across?
For the same reason, when there's nobody in line, I still go through the back and forth of the ropes just to be silly. She's got a dance to do here.
Okay, where's her lollipop and flowers?
Yeah, she put them down somewhere apparently.
I was trying to watch for it and I missed it. Because she had them when the Wicked Witch disappeared, but when Glenda disappeared, she didn't have them anymore.
Okay, yeah, so that shows the link up. Scene changes at the same time as Us and Them changes to any color you like.
It's like, but they didn't tell her what to do when it comes to a fork.
It's a good thing that there's I'm guessing that in a situation like this, whichever road she takes they'll eventually come together. Think about it from her point of view. A scarecrow moving, that's got to scare the crap out of you. You're not
Especially
supposed
if
to
it's
do
Michael Jackson.
that. Yeah, well. Gonna ease on down the road.
Ease on down. Ease on down the road.
See, and this is the kind of thing that I feel is as they wrote these sync up things, they were trying to put the square peg in the round hole. Because the next one is the lunatic is in the grass. The scarecrow isn't on the grass, but he's made of grass, and he's certainly dancing around like a lunatic. That is really bending it to fit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my whole thing is this last, like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of the album hasn't really sunk up that well. Once you get past money, basically, it kind of goes.
Yeah, but if you're doing this right, you're so high by this point.
Well, right.
It's totally fine, right?
I mean, this music works okay with this bit, but it's not. It isn't until, like, yeah, like you said, Brain Dead comes on, then it starts to sync up again, it feels like.
This is what I'm talking about, though. Ray Bolger is just a physical genius.
And he contradicted himself. When he fell, she said, "Are you hurt?" And, like, "Did you lose your stuff?" And he goes, "Oh, no, I just picked it up and put it back in again." How can you do that if you couldn't get off the darn pole?
Oh, well, yeah.
Well, maybe he had a life prior to the poll.
Then that would suggest somebody's actually enslaving scarecrows for this job.
I always assumed that what happened was they animated the scarecrow after he was created. I'm thinking in D&D terms again.
That's not how the Force works.
Yeah, some of the music isn't sounding quite right.
Well, the fact is, Pink Floyd didn't do this intentionally. If they had, it would be very different. Let's see. See, and this is a detail I've never noticed before. It says, you raise the blade. A toucan with a bill resembling a blade raises into the air. I never saw a toucan in this movie. And there's I don't know if it's a fan theory or if it's literally intentional, but Oz being another word, another term, another name for Australia is a lot of people believe that the thought was that literally was where Dorothy went, because if you ever saw a visual representation of Oz, it literally is an island about the same shape as Australia.
So she just went down under.
Yeah. And the difference between the book and the movie is that in the movie she like clicks her heels together and she actually wakes up, or she teleports, or she whatever. But in the book, she taps her heels together and she's able to run really fast like the Flash across the ocean. So she literally runs from Australia across the Pacific Ocean to Kansas. But in the process, loses the shoes, apparently. And there's Boomer's icon.
Freaked me out as a kid.
Tomatoes.
Well, they're not real.
They still look like tomatoes.
You don't want any of those apples. They probably got little worms in them.
What I want to know is, what does she have in that basket if she didn't have a snack for her trip when she was running away?
Toto.
No, she was carrying Toto.
Yeah, see, this is another one that was a stretch. Thunder in your ears as the apple trees are screaming at Dorothy. All that you touch is she's touching the arm of the Tin Man.
Okay, I'm having Nutcracker in the Four Realms flashbacks here. Step away from the Tin Man.
Oh, I need to see that movie.
No, you don't.
I know I don't, but I'm still curious. Nutcracker has probably had more bad adaptations than anything else. Isn't this the second actor that got to play the Tin Man?
Yeah, Buddy Ebsen was originally, and he they used a spray paint that got into his lungs, and he ended up having to go to the hospital. What an echo! And this is the last sync up here. Did I miss it? The heartbeat?
I heard it, but very, very lightly.
It was very light. Okay. And guys, that's the end of the album, so I'm gonna stop the movie now because there's nothing more here. Like I said, the theory is that you start playing the album again, but there's others that say, you play a different Floyd album or whatever. It's like, nah, it's not. And the only thing I think is sad is that, we don't get the Cowardly Lion. The Cowardly Lion isn't part of this at all. Mm-mm. That seems kind of unfair. But yeah. I do have notes here, and maybe I'll drop this in the comments later on. But there are notes here for how it says things sync up if you start playing it again. But again, we're talking about a timing thing that I don't think is, it's very hard to make happen. So I don't put too much stock in it. But
yeah, it's fun if you got, time to sit down and listen to the album. I mean, it's something visual.
And let's face it. I mean, again, this is a classic film, which I love. This is one of my favorite albums. So, it's a fun little exercise. And Tom, I don't even remember what prompted me to do this and have you on, but I think you mentioned this idea or something on one of your shows.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, this was like a month and a half ago or something like this, but it came up in a conversation. I'm like, I think I want to do this on my show. Would you be willing to come on? And I was surprised you said yes. So you committed yourself. But yeah, so that is the Dark Side of Oz, the Dark Side of the Rainbow, the Wizard of Floyd, whatever you want to call it. At least I've exposed everybody to this this phenomenon, this internet thing. See, that's the other thing, Tom. This was back in the early 70s. Most people didn't really know about this until the internet came along, right? I mean...
Yeah, like I said, 95 was the first recorded anything of this that I could find, and that was a Rolling Stone article. Since then, there's been internet sites, there's been other write-ups about it. I'm sure there's a dozen YouTube videos about it now, Again, it's just one of those things that, as an urban myth goes or an urban legend goes, it's harmless. I'm not going to sit there and, say somebody's silly or stupid for believing in it. It's just a bit of fun.
I mean, in fairness... If you're gonna buy into the whole conspiracy part about it and say, well, Pink Floyd planned this, yeah, maybe that's going a bit far with it.
Yeah.
But to enjoy it this way, I agree with you 100%.
It's harmless.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of other things you could do while you're stoned that are a lot worse.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right about that. I'm not going to necessarily wrap up the show, but I also don't want to keep you, because I know you're on a time frame here, Tom. So how are you doing on time?
I got about a good 20 minutes or so.
Okay, fair enough. So obviously you know a lot more about the Wizard of Oz than I even realized, but I also know that you are a huge Floyd fan.
Yeah.
So I mean, you said you've done this, or you've done this whole sync up concept a couple times before now?
Yeah, I was trying to remember the first time. That's the funny thing is I can't remember the first time I did it, but like I said, I've done it, I don't know, quite a few times. It used to be kind of like a 420 tradition if I had some friends over and, we get a little stoned and, especially when I got the 3D version and the multi-channel sound version. Like I said, I had to do that at least once. I know I have. So at least within the last 5 or so years.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, it's just one of those things that I know I probably the first time would have been at somebody else's house. And I probably don't remember because I was that stoned.
Fair enough.
And
I also wanted to ask Steven, did you say this was your first time seeing at least this much of the Wizard of Oz straight through?
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. It's one of those movies that seems like life is just trying to keep me from watching this movie in its entirety in one sitting.
Do you not have it on physical media yourself?
Well, I do, which is eventually how I got a chance to sit down and finally watch it. But it's kind of like that, and the third Man is another one that life seems to be keeping me from watching.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did watch Dark Side of the Rainbow, as we're calling it, first, and I always call it having a contact high without actually smoking any weed.
I know, right? You could kind of end up feeling that way, but like Tom said, it's just good, clean fun. There's nothing wrong with it.
Oh, for sure, yeah, it's harmless.
Aussie Wizard of Oz came out in 1976. Okay, I'll take your word for that, Tim.
Point of order.
Yeah, I'm curious if
What's
anything
that?
syncs up with the Wiz.
Glinda didn't send her to kill the witch. The wizard did.
Well, that's true.
I know you're absolutely right if you want to get really technical, but it was Glinda who
She still
started.
could have just told her, click your heels together, go home.
Exactly. She's the one that started her on the path. I think that Glinda was
And
playing
the
some
wizard
40 chess.
is a fraud.
You're right, he is. Whatever version you go to, whether it's the book, whether it's Wicked or this, he's a fraud, and he even admits it. It's but
So what the hell does he even need the broom for?
I don't know about. I forget what it was in the book.
They just want is a conspiracy to get her to kill the witch.
There's that. I think
Having the broom is proof of death.
Well, that's what he says, but honestly, I think it was just his way of getting rid of her. He didn't want to deal with her because, again, he's a fraud. He has no way of, granting the wishes and whatnot. So he's like, I'll tell you what, you do this thing for me, and then we're good. And he never expected her to come back. He's shocked when she comes back with the broom,
So basically, he's even worse because he's sending her off to her inevitable death instead of just telling her you could click your fucking heels.
I'll tell you what, between the wizard and Glinda, the so-called good witch, the good guys are the bad guys in this movie. And the wicked witch just wants what's hers, her inheritance.
I love this movie, and I've seen it a billion times, and I've probably tore it apart I don't know how many more times, but no, it is a classic, and I'm glad you finally got to see the whole thing, Steven. I didn't know that anybody actually lived a life like that, because like we were saying in the earlier part of the show, like growing up, it was just like a natural occurrence in life, right? Like every year it was on TV.
And it was like,
it
was an event kind of thing, and I remember my mom making popcorn, and it was kind of a family kind of thing. So if you don't have, and this is the thing that I always struggle with, especially in our community when we're talking about, oh, you haven't seen this movie or you haven't watched this show or whatever. If you didn't grow up with that and associate certain memories with those things, watching it now is not necessarily going to make people go, oh yeah, Star Trek is the bomb or Star Wars is wonderful. Mm-hmm. No, you didn't watch it. For people our age, it was watching Star Wars in the 70s, buying the old Kenner action figures, the old commercials, the mail away for Boba Fett. All of that stuff went into our love for Star Wars.
But with The Wizard of Oz, though, this was still a much older movie when we saw it.
True.
And
so what it was,
then,
it was an example of our grandparents and our parents sharing something they loved from when they were younger with us. it was, joining 3 generations by watching this movie together, especially at the holidays, because that's when my grandmother was coming to stay with us, for the holidays. So we literally had 3 generations in the house together watching The Wizard of Oz. And I've heard so many stories that people have shared about watching The Wizard of Oz growing up and so forth. A lot of people in the gay community talking about how, it was the only way they felt they belonged and connected with their families, because so much else in their life seemed discordant, and, their families didn't accept this, that, and the other about them. But they had these great family memories about, Wizard of Oz and stuff. And that's where you get all the rainbow imagery and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's an important part of Americana and family histories and so forth. So yeah, absolutely. And Pink Floyd is just good music, But
okay, so which version of Dune should we play this over?
Oh, it's got to be it's got to be the David Lynch version, right? Because David Lynch, he literally did incorporate a lot of Wizard of Oz imagery into his films. Maybe not Dune specifically, but
Wild at Heart, basically.
Wild at Heart, big time. It's very like.
Well, Jodorowsky was gonna actually use Pink Floyd for the soundtrack of his Dune.
Who was?
Jodorowsky.
Oh, okay, yeah. That kind of makes sense, to be honest.
There's a great documentary about that called Jodorowsky's Dune, which was all about it's sort of the unmaking of a movie, really.
I actually found out about that from you, Stephen, and that's the only reason I even knew about it. But I after seeing David Lynch's Dune, I went out and got the book, and then I read it for the first time. And I was like, I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but if you ever see a movie before you read the book, then as you read the book, it kind of flavors your, mind's eye theater of it. So I, heard, like Kyle MacLachlan's voice for Paul and, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Saw all the differences and was like, oh, that's too bad that they didn't get some of this into the movie and this, that, and the other. And then over the years, kind of hearing, the almost tragic story of trying to get that movie made, it's like, well, there's a lot of this stuff that Lynch wanted to get into it and just couldn't. Because how do you put all this detail into I think he did about a 3-hour movie, and the studios were already pissed about it. So it's like, I think Villeneuve, or however you say his name, did it right by splitting it into 2 movies. And even the first movie still trimmed a lot of details out of. I think I agree with Alan Moore. I think some things are created in the medium they're meant to be, and they shouldn't be translated into movies. Just my thought. Anyway, but actually, I think we've gone longer than I really expected to, because we're at 10:30, and we're coming up into the last half hour. Not that anyone in my audience, needs to know this, because I'm sure every single one of them knows Tom and is subscribed to Midnight's Edge After Dark, and MEAD Radio, which are all linked below. But is there anything you wanted to, let everybody know about for this week or so?
Well, we got the morning show Monday. I think Razor Fist is going to be there. And then I got karaoke coming up on CC Karaoke here in just under a half hour. So
Yep. So actually, I'd kind of appreciate it if everybody who's in the chat right now were to go over to CC Karaoke's in about a half hour and just hit the like button and say hi, and just do a Friday night last call raid at Tom in honor of Tom. Let him know that Tom sent you. But good. Let me pull up my notes and we'll real quick go through my other notes, not the Pink Floyd notes. Yeah. So tomorrow night we will be over on Big Al of Big Al Presents. Like I said earlier, we'll be watching the movie Harvey with Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart.
I have not seen that movie in years. I love that movie. Actually, I love anything Jimmy Stewart's in, to be honest with you. What are we doing first thing on Sunday, Stephen Otten?
All right. Well, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard will be the next episode of Unscripted. And let me put it this way. Alec Baldwin will not be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, if he cared about, what people on the internet were saying, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
I'm going to skewer Hollywood and their accesses and their own privilege. Let's just put it that way.
Rules for thee and not for me. I think that's actually what you called it, right?
Yeah.
Boomer, I didn't mention this to you, but last night on Netter's Network, I decided to speak for you, and I thought you wouldn't mind. We've been calling Unscripted, Deleted Scenes Unscripted, the unofficial lead-in to Geeky Geezers. I decided last night to make it official.
Official?
Since he decided not only on Sunday, but he did a special one on Monday just to lead into your special Easter edition of Geeky Geezers.
That's right. I remember that.
I thought, we should make it official. So he is now the official lead-in. And
we've had him on the show. I mean, it's funny.
Exactly. And then, so what happens is he sends us over to Geeky Geezer. Oh, it still says Easter special. I didn't mean to say that. But, make sure you're subscribed to Aged Boomer for your weekly geek news, at least the stuff that we found interesting, possibly some news items that you won't hear on those big channels like Midnight's Edge, because it's just the crap that, Aged Boomer and I are interested in.
Like the Amityville in Space story.
Like Amityville in Space, exactly. I'm sure they won't be talking about that on Andre's channel. At least I hope not. He's got more sense than we do.
We're going to cover that D&D. Go ahead.
How did we make this movie with for $12 with plastic guns and aluminum foil spacesuits? And...
you're not far off from the promos that I saw for that, so you're absolutely right. Do you know if Mr. Matchstick is doing, or Mr. Matchstick, if Soundtracks with Birdman's doing anything on Monday?
I don't know. I know that we're planning for Wednesday to do a rewatch of the Cowboys.
Okay, but first on Tuesday,
yes, Mr. Matchstick.
You and I will be on Mr. Matchstick's channel, where we will be talking about resurrection?
Character resurrection.
Okay. So my suggestion was like Superman.
Yes, and my suggestion was Spock.
Okay. So
Spock?
Yeah, Spock was another one. It's kind of become a trope, to be honest.
I want to talk about why that. I want to say that was a mistake, but they figured a way out of it, and they did their best. Whereas then they did the thing with Kirk and Into Darkness, where they kill him off and then bring him back in 10 minutes.
But I'll tell you, man. Well, we should probably save it for Tuesday. But I feel like they changed the ending of Star Trek 2 because they wanted to leave it open for a sequel.
Yeah, we'll talk about it Tuesday.
Yeah,
that's what I've heard. What Nicholas Meyer said.
Well, well, there was not just Nicholas Meyer. Harv Bennett also said the original screening of that movie it felt like a funeral, and they walked out.
Oh,
so they had to come up with something at the end to fix it. So what they did is they spent, I can't remember how much it was for ILM to actually do the whole sequence at the end with the pod.
Really?
And they had Leonard do the voiceover to kind of give you a feeling of, there's always possibilities.
Yes.
So because they said that made all the difference in the world from when the original screening happened, because people hated the fucking movie because of it. Like, they just hated it.
Okay.
Like they were like mad because they're like, you killed Spock? And like the ending was just them giving him the send off, and that was it. Like it was a very dour ending, and they're like, we need something here to kind of.
I can believe it. Yeah.
So the whole bit with it being shot out, seeing it on the planet with the music and space, the final frontier. That whole thing was all added later, after the first screening, and then they showed that during the second screening, and it was gangbusters.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it was the right call. Even if there hadn't been a part 3 to follow it up, I think it would have been a fine ending. But I'll tell you,
Shatner questions the whole thing. He's like, I think that Nimoy played him for all it was worth, but whatever.
Well,
but he lied.
I wonder because I felt like some of the things I've heard, and I heard Nimoy go back and forth on this. I think he wanted it to be done because he said, I liked the death. When you play a character like that, you want a good ending to it. So
I don't know exactly where the interview is, but Nimoy said in an interview he realized he had effed up when he was at one of the screenings, one of the premieres, and he saw the reaction the audience had to his character's death.
Yeah.
And then he flat out admits that he used, his return in the third film as a way to direct it because he wanted to get into directing too.
That makes sense. So, yeah, those behind the scenes kinds of elements is something you don't think about from the narrative standpoint, but they absolutely do affect the story you end up getting.
Because that was always a part of the game, was like Nimoy only signed up for another movie because they killed him. He's like, I'll do it, but I want to die in this one because I'm not doing any more. Because he's done with it.
He came back for Next Generation. He came back
as he said, and he said in the interview, he's like, the moment I kind of started having second thoughts was at that premiere, and I just saw the emotional reaction that people had to this character, and I think that's when it finally resonated with him. Like, oh crap! Through all the years, because he even wrote that book, "I Am Not Spock," which he later revised to "I Am Spock." Right. And I think that was one of those moments where he kind of realized, oh, this is my legacy. I can't outrun this kind of thing.
That's true. I got to admit, and I'll admit it on Matchstick's channel on Tuesday too. I have no problem being open about this. I cry every time I see that funeral scene in Star Trek II. Now, a lot of it's very personal for me because you got the Amazing Grace on the bagpipes, and they played Amazing Grace at my grandfather's funeral. So I've got all that personal baggage in there, that really, but it messes me up every time in a good way. I think that's a good thing to be able to feel in a movie like that. But I don't know if you've done this on Soundtracks with Birdman, Boomer, but the soundtrack for Star Trek II does not include that Amazing Grace on the bagpipes.
I believe my version does.
I say the newer version does.
Yes.
Oh.
They reissued it.
Yeah, the new La La Land edition, which is not even 5 years old, does have it.
I'll have to look into that.
The expanded soundtrack, yeah.
Yeah,
if you can get your hands on it, it's been out of print for a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe Boomer can help me out with it.
I say, I'm sure we can hook you up.
Yeah, exactly.
I got that in the Star Trek 3 soundtrack, the expanded.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've got all the expanded ones up through 5 or 6. I can't remember which.
What 6. I had done was I got the original CD of Star Trek II, which, like I said, didn't have Amazing Grace, and then I went out and got the Bagpipes and Drums of Scotland, which has almost that exact version.
Yeah, actually, I just played it the other day on MEAD Radio. It leads off with the bagpipes, and then it leads into, just like it does in the movie, into the grand version of it.
Yeah.
Which, as I was saying, that is what was missing in the original cut of Star Trek II. It had the bagpipes, but then after that, it was just a dark kind of like the end kind of thing. Like we're done. See you, kids. Yeah.
But musically speaking, the way they go from the bagpipes,
it needed that exactly, and that's what Harv Bennett was saying.
Beautiful, blends perfectly. Yeah. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about how beautiful it was. So anyway, I dropped the link for Tuesday. Thursday, what do we got going on your channel, Netter?
I have got special guest host Tommy and the Guinea Pig Collective.
Good,
so we'll be talking all about him, the channel, the cute little paw prints he leaves in the chat.
Absolutely, and we'll make sure that we got the link in the description, because we're going to ask you to subscribe to him and follow him on the social medias. And that's going to bring us back to next Friday, where my guest will be oftentimes guest of Midnight's Edge, Tom Conkle, and we will be doing a watch party of Safety Geeks SVI. In fact, I even have the disc right here. Although we'll be watching it together, I'm going to have the link not to Cosme next week. It will be to the to Tom Conkle's YouTube page, because I want to try and get him some watch hours on his channel. That's part of why we're doing this. But again, as with everything that I bring you on this channel, it's because I enjoy it and I think that you will too. So I'm doing it as a favor to you. So that's all I got. Let me go in reverse order here. Tom, any last words for the chat?
Follow the yellow brick road.
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Boomer?
Yeah.
Oh, nothing. No, just thanks for having me, and I will have to try singing this up on my own sometime. Seeing,
yeah.
If
And try to smile more, Aged Boomer. You're looking a little down. Steven, last words?
All right, I'll close it out as I always do. I want everyone out there to take care, stay strong, because this is how we win.
Agreed. And Netter, take us out.
Well, you know what I always say.
Do.
We can talk amongst ourselves, and that's all well good and fun. But it's so much more fun when you guys are joining us in the chat. You're dropping your comments, questions, trivia, just being goofy, whatever it may be. And it doesn't feel like we're separated by miles or, in some cases, continents. It feels like we're all just hanging out in the same room together, just having a good time, enjoying each other's company, and, just being there with each other.
Yep.
And you aren't just our friends. You're our family. And we really do mean that. We love you guys, and we appreciate you being here.
And I always feel like I got to follow that up with, like, Mr. Rogers. You always make each day special for me. You know how, just by being you. But saccharine sweet as it might be, it's absolutely true. That's why I started this channel, and I appreciate hanging out with y'all. Take care, and I really hope to see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Good night, ladies.
Good night, sir.
Hit it, sweetheart.